What is shaken, Internet? This is Saltz bringing you the How to Tank for Dummies Darkheart Thicket guide. In this guide, I will be explaining how to tank the Darkheart Thicket 5-man dungeon. I will detail any interesting trash mobs, all of the bosses, and the related achievements for the dungeon, focusing primarily on normal and heroic difficulties. I will briefly cover things to watch for in Mythic difficulty as well, although most of the differences are just less forgiving numbers. Now for those of you in queue or already in the dungeon, a quick overview. Use a cooldown for Boss 1's Primal Rage Bear Form move, and step out of red viney zones. Avoid the Grasping Roots in Boss 2's room. Pick up any dragons that spawn during Downdraft on Boss 3 and watch for falling rocks. And don't step in rings around people in the last boss, while avoiding raining fire in the second half. Also be sure to face everything away from your group at all times. So, Darkheart Thicket is a dungeon in northern Valshara, where the Shade of Xavius has kidnapped Malfurion, the head honcho of the Druids. It shows off how the Nightmare Corruption has overtaken the roots of one of those blank Drasil trees. Don't ask me which one. There are 4 main bosses in the dungeon, with 2 world quest bosses that appear. First, we'll discuss the trash before the first boss, Archdruid Gladalis, I believe. The cats will pounce around the room to random people, putting a moderate DOT on them, which can't be avoided. Spiders will poison people, and that poison explodes, doing damage to nearby people once dispelled, or when it runs out. So just don't stand near others if you can avoid it. The screechers will randomly disorient allies, and they should be interrupted as often as possible. For you as the tank, you'll want to watch out for Dread Soul Ruiners, as they cast a healing debuff on you. You should focus on interrupting this debuff as quickly as possible, because it is particularly nasty on tanks. Additionally, they will make stars fall and damage players, so these should be the highest priority targets at all times. Grizzlies and Razorbeaks should be faced away from your allies at all times, as they have frontal moves that will hurt everyone. Before we talk about the Archdruid, I want to quickly cover the first optional boss, Rage Rot. He can be found just to the right of the entrance in the Rotting Grotto. He's optional and should only be fought if you have the related world quest. Now, sorry for the lack of video here, Rage Rot is currently unavailable unless the world quest is available, so you'll just have to look at this pretty picture instead. Rage Rot isn't terribly hard, but the space is cramped unless you try to clear all the trash. He only does 2 moves. First is Rotting Earth, which is just a big bad pool. Move out of this when he casts it, using a cooldown if necessary. The other is Viney Grass, which pulls a random group member towards Rage Rot. Just move out of the pool again if you get pulled in. Now the bigger threat here is really just pulling trash mobs in while fighting Rage Rot, so be aware of your surroundings at all times. Now, Archdruid Gladalis, I believe is how you say it, is the first mandatory boss. In general, he will hit you with your melee attacks and cast Nightfall, which leaves big bad pools on the ground. Like red viney bad pools. They're not like green pools, they're just red viney things. Make sure to move out of these red vines as soon as possible. Additionally, Glady will use a cat move and a bear move. The cat move jumps to a random member, and then back to the tank, doing damage and a DOT on both targets. The DOT will stay until you are healed up, which should be pretty fast for you. The healer will also have to heal up the other group member, just to get the DOT off of them. Now the bear move has Gladalis attack in a cone in front of him and charge, knocking everyone back. This move hits particularly hard, so be prepared for the cooldown and make sure he's facing away from everyone else when this move occurs. Try to keep your back to a wall to avoid being knocked back too far if you can. Now, after taking Gladalis down, you'll begin your long trek to Oakheart, the second boss. The trash here will jump around, dryads, create mushrooms that explode, keepers, and throw you up in the air, blossoms. In short, kill dryads quickly to avoid them from jumping over and grabbing more trash, and move away from mushrooms and bad zones on the ground to avoid getting knocked up and blown up. At the very bottom of the map, you'll see an old night elf building to your right. Or, I guess it's high elf building, whatever. This is where Cudzilla lives. You can either jump off the balcony of the building, or just walk up to Cudzy around the way. He is the second optional world boss in the dungeon. Now, Cudzy does 2 moves. Barbed Bite, which is just a frontal cone attack with a big DOT attached, and also throw out nasty pulls at non-tanks. The pulls stay for the entire fight, so be prepared to move a lot to get out of these pools. Barbed Bite is a pretty nasty move and DOT, but if you have active mitigation up, you actually don't take the DOT. So make sure you use active mitigation before every single Barbed Bite. Also make sure you're facing Cudzy away from your buddies, as this will kill them very quickly. Now eventually you'll reach Oakheart's area. You'll have to kill 5 nightmare dwellers hanging around the first area, and then the only thing they do is to do a special channel of a bad move on a random group member, dealing damage every second. Now, if the channel completes, your buddy actually is feared for a few seconds, running around like crazy. You need to interrupt these channels before they're done and burn them down quickly. Particularly, try to grab one at a time, especially in higher difficulties. Now, once all the dwellers are down, Oakheart will start moving and become targetable. He does 3 moves that matter directly to you, with a small bonus for just everyone. First and foremost is Nightmare Breath. This is a frontal cone attack that hits super hard. Face him away from everyone at all times for this and get out of the way once he winds up for a breath. Or rather, just use a cooldown, because even if you get out of the way, he'll just face you anyway. Oki will grab his tank every so often with Crushing Grip. This does a bunch of damage over a small amount of time, and he'll throw you at one of your friends, doing more damage to anyone nearby the landing zone. Use a big cooldown for this, and people should spread out and move when you're being thrown. Shattered Earth is his final move, which just hits everyone back and does some decent damage. This isn't that fancy, but Oki will also create little zones that root group members in place. The roots have to be single targeted down to actually break free or destroy them. Normally you can just ignore these roots and not step in them, but if you do get rooted, be sure to kill the roots quickly in case of an incoming breath. Now, after killing Oakheart, you will head through the marsh. The only mobs here are oozes and elementals. Oozes blow up when they die. If all of them die together, this can hurt a lot, so be careful to try to kill them one at a time. Elementals have 2 moves, a charge and a bomb. The charge will knock you back and heal the elemental for everyone hit, so move out of the way. The bombs fall from the sky and knocks you back and heals the elemental, so move out of the way. When the elementals die, they split into smaller adds that can just cast a spell, so burn them down quickly. Now, the annoying problem here is that there are little eggs that litter the sides of this area. If you get near them or get knocked into them, little dragons spawn. They're not too tough or anything, but you should be quick to pick them up and help out your little squishy buddies. Dresaron is the 3rd boss in the dungeon at the end of the marsh. Quick note, you can actually skip him by jumping down some cliffs after Oakheart, but I wouldn't recommend it, especially for those trying to get gear still. 3 major things happen during the Dresaron fight. Most noticeable is Downdraft. This is a move Dresaron will use frequently that pushes everyone away from him. Not only is it annoying, but it does a decent chunk of damage, which will be hard for the healer to heal, since they're getting pushed away too, and if you get close to the edges, you'll spawn more of those annoying little dragons. Use minor cooldowns, movement speed buffs, and be sure to pick up any mini dragons that spawn during this move. Next is Breath of Corruption. This is a big cone attack that does very heavy damage and reduces your armor for every second you're standing in it. As soon as old Dressy winds up for a breath, sidestep it to get out of the way. If you do get hit by the move, be sure to use a cooldown while you're taking increased damage. And finally, Dressy will drop rocks on random people's heads. Move out of these rocks and keep Dresaron away from them to save your melee some headache. Literally. Now, after besting Dresaron, you can start jumping down the cliff. Down in the valley, you'll face a bunch of imps and satyrs. They will drop AoE debuffs on people, but the short explanation is just don't stand near your buddies, especially if they have a green ring of fire around them. In the tunnel, you'll fight bats, which should always be priority, as they heal up while draining your life. They hit very hard with Dark Soul Bite, so if multiple bats are using it together, be ready with some minor or even major cooldowns. The Shade of Xavius awaits at the end of the tunnel. This guy has quite a few nasty moves. First is Growing Paranoia, which puts a big ring around one ally for 20 seconds. If anyone walks into this ring, the ally explodes, doing a bunch of damage to themselves and being feared for 5 seconds. If you are targeted by this, stay as far away from others as possible, and be prepared in case you get feared if you have some kind of like CC breakout move. Festering Rip is a healing debuff on random players that will reduce your healing, surprise. This is especially bad on tanks, but in most cases you need the healer just to spell you, so there's not much you can do. Be prepared with a cooldown if you do get it, though. Feed on the Weak is a channeled move on a random group member that does a ton of damage. You cannot taunt Xavius out of it or interrupt him, so the healer will just have to be prepared to heal that person out of it. If you get targeted, pop a cooldown. At 50% health, Xavius will do a bunch of damage to everyone and start dropping fires all around. Be doubly prepared at this point, as the healer will have to heal up everyone from however much damage they take, meaning you might need to use a cooldown while they're busy healing everybody up. And now for the rest of the fight, you'll have to continue avoiding all these raining fires. But otherwise, the moves remain the same. Finish off Xavius, and you're done. Now, let's go ahead and cover some differences you'll see in Mythic before talking achievements, since you have to be on Mythic difficulty to even get the achievements. Now, before the Archdruid, you'll notice a few new adds get spawned. These abominations fixate on random players and drop ooze puddles when they die. Just kite them and kill them as necessary, being sure not to stand in the badness. There's no changes to the Archdruid himself, though. On to Oakheart. The Keeper should take bonus priority here because their mushrooms will heal the blossoms. Keep the blossoms away from the mushrooms. Now, on Oakheart himself, the strangling roots will become little adds that melee and will have to be picked up by the tank. You can kill the strangling roots beforehand, but either way works. Also note that these adds actually appear in both heroic and mythic difficulties, not just mythic. Now, in the marsh, you get to face some nasty changes. The little adds that spawn from the elementals will actually turn back into the elementals at half health, unless you kill them very fast. They can only do this once, luckily, so they don't have an endless cycle of new elementals all the time, but it's still pretty annoying. Also, the little dragons that spawn from eggs will explode when they die, similar to the oozes, so be careful when AoEing a bunch of different things. Now, there's no difference to the Dresaron fight in Mythic specifically, but there is an achievement. Near the back of Dressy's area, there is a big egg. Going near it will spawn a hateful abomination. You have to kill this ad, and then kill the boss to get the egg-cellent achievement. Now, the main difference to the trash before the Shade of Xavius is the additional move speed debuff with the Corruption of Isolation, that nasty green ring around people. This is the move that does damage to nearby people, so when they start hurting you because you're standing close, now it's better for you to move away from them than for them to move away from you, since they'll be super duper slow. Also note that the bats will do a new move that leeches life and hits like a truck. Be prepared with cooldowns when fighting more than one bat. Two major differences happen during the Shade fight itself. First is that Xavius will hit people with cowardice frequently, which pacifies them, meaning they can't use any abilities. The only way to break this is to stand near an ally. Now, since you're trying to stay away from each other for the paranoia mechanic, this is the opposite. If you get pacified, you need to go stand near someone. Now, the nice thing is that getting this cowardice debuff will erase the paranoia debuff if you already had it, so you don't have to worry about not getting close to anyone and getting close to someone at the same time. You still should avoid other people, though, that have their big bad rings around them. The other mechanic is for the second half of the fight. Xavius will be empowered whenever he is standing in one of the falling fires, dealing 5% more damage per stack. This means you should keep Xavius out of the fires as much as possible, if not completely. Unless you want the achievement, of course. The achievement Burning Down the House requires Xavius to get 10 stacks of empowerment before you kill him, meaning he has to get hit by 10 fires before you finish him off. This means he'll be doing truckloads of damage by the end, so get those cooldowns ready. If you can coordinate it, try to keep his stacks low until about the last 5 to 10%. Then stop DPS until you can get the 10 stacks quickly, and then finish him off in a quick burst. And that covers all of Darkheart Thicket. If you're looking for more dungeon or raid guides, click the annotation on the top of the video in the top left that you've conveniently ignored so far. It's been there the whole time. Hopefully you enjoyed this guide for dummies. Please like, favorite, share, subscribe, all that jazz, and, as always, you keep it salty, Internet.